You are now listening to Failing Adds Up with your co-hosts, George Jr. Ibarra and Antonio Romero. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Failing Adds Up podcast. If you are new here, my name is Antonio Romero, and alongside with me on every single episode I got
Junior Ibarra.
What's up, Junior? How's your day going so far, man?
It's going, man. It's summer's here, kind of spring, summer, and things are turning green, which is awesome to see, right? So the weather's pretty good, and we even have a little bit of volleyball going into the weekend, right? Right. We lost last week, but we're gonna take the W tonight, right?
Yes, sir. We're gonna learn and improve, right?
Yeah, learn and improve. There we go.
Yeah. So I'm super excited for today's episode because once again we have another guest that we both actually don't really know much about. I've seen a little bit on social media, seen a little of some of the things he's been doing, but. Following along with that, I wanted to, make sure we did give a special shout out to Chinda Camboon, who's actually here in studio with us for actually making this introduction, making this connection. I know you guys, they grew up together, and I'm sure he'll probably talk a little bit about that. But I'm super excited. If you allow me, Junior, I'll just take it away from there.
Yeah, I'm excited too. This is one of our first athletes. We have other athletes lined up in our upcoming episodes. Yes, this is one of our first ones in that realm. So I'm excited to kind of just learn about the journey, of what happens, growing up in an athlete's mind and kind of what shapes them to be who they are, both, in the athlete realm and then outside as just a regular person too. So I'm excited to get to know this guest. So yeah, go for it.
All right. Introducing to today's episode, today's podcast, today's fight, I should say, he's standing at 6'8", weighing in at 280 pounds, fighting out of Des Moines, Iowa, Antonio El Gigante Mireles.
Hey, let's go.
Welcome,
man. What
man.
an intro there. You did great on that.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, you might want to look into being a commentator.
Hey, man.
That was better than some of the fights I've been at.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, no, actually, speaking on your name, maybe you guys can't tell because he's sitting down. El Gigante. It's perfect. You're 6'8", so can you tell us a little bit how you actually got that nickname? Was it just given to you because you're tall, or was there someone specifically who gave it to you?
Yeah, so this was right around a year and a half, 2 years ago, right before I was making my pro debut. I was just got signed to Top Rank, which is one of the top boxing promotions in the world, and I was doing a lot of PR stuff because they wanted to just kind of introduce me to the fan base and as a newly signed fighter and all that. And so I was talking to one of the PR guys, and he was saying how you need a nickname, something
catchy, right?
Yeah. Something. I mean, people always love nicknames. It's something to increase your following and
they kind of remember you off of your nickname instead of your actual name, huh?
Yeah. And so I was talking to this guy on the phone, and he was just like, "So is there anything you want to go by?" And I was like, I remember in high school back when I was on the wrestling team, my nickname was Tiny.
Oh,
that
really?
was, but it was his idea. He was just like, "I'm just brainstorming, but I think this is a good idea. How about El Gigante?" Because for one, I mean, self-explanatory, 6'8", 270 plus, but also, Spanish, you want to draw to the Mexican crowd because, boxing, Mexicans, they go hand in hand. It's huge. So, and I'm easy. So I was like, yeah, sure. Go with that one.
And you're no longer tiny.
No.
That's awesome. No, that's so cool to kind of hear that story of how you got that. So we like to kind of listen to, kind of where it all started, right? So what are some pivotal moments in time, whether it's in your childhood or growing up, that you really fondly remember that maybe have shaped who you are as not only a human but as an athlete? Like where would you like to start with that story?
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of funny. You guys referred to me a couple times as an athlete, and that's just, to me, makes me kind of chuckle because I don't really consider myself an athlete. I was never other than just being big. I was never really
Like athletic.
quick or strong. Even as a kid, I was real tall, but I was like skinny. I didn't really get into that man, growing into my man strength until later on into adulthood. But one thing I always remember is I liked fighting. So I consider myself more of an fighter before an athlete. You say athlete, I think of like NBA players, football players, guys that are fast, strong, explosive, all that.
Yeah.
I'm just good at punching stuff.
So how far back do you remember having liking fighting? Like, were you always like, are you, in regards to your family, is there one of you, more of you? How many are there of you in your family? Because sometimes I just remember fighting with my brother as little as like 5 years old, right? Like, did you have any of that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I got 4 siblings. I'm the second youngest. Yeah. And I got an older sister, an older brother, another older sister, then a younger sister. Mm-hmm. And so my sisters, they always spoiled me real good, but my older brother, he was I remember we were always going at it, but he was 7 and 8 years older than me.
Yeah.
So I was always on the losing end of that, but it was cool because I'd always like to challenge him or whatever. He'd put me down like that, and then my sister would come along, and then they would just baby me and make him feel like the jerk. So
how did that come about? Were you guys did you just start boxing at an early age, or did you guys kind of just play a lot of sports when you were younger, and then it evolved into boxing, or?
Yeah, I'm the first one in my family that's a boxer. It's not like I come from a boxing family. Yeah. And even in being in Des Moines, Iowa, this isn't like a boxing city, it's not known for that.
Yeah.
So, true. But my earliest memory is I was obsessed with the movie Rocky. I can remember, it's one of my earliest memories as a child, just always loving that movie, always wanted to watch it. And I remember for Christmas, I think I had to have been 6 or 7. My mom got me the 5-movie box set of all the Rockies. And it was like my favorite present ever. And I watched all of them back to back. So that was my first introduction into boxing. And I was just always very vocal about wanting to try it, wanting to do it. And then around 8 years old was the first time I ever walked into a boxing gym. My mom found one over on the east side of Des Moines. And she, I went in there and instantly just fell in love with it.
Wow. So what out of all the Rockies, which one's your favorite? I'm curious.
I would just say, I think I gotta say the first one, just because that was the initial one that just sparked everything.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick one I enjoy the most, the fourth one.
Oh yeah.
I think that's everyone's favorite.
You like the Creed movies too, or not really? They don't live up to the hype, or what?
I like them. They I don't think they compare to the originals, but I think it's still cool how they expand on that universe, and yeah, I'm for them.
I would agree. The originals, you'll never beat them.
Yeah.
And this kind of at least brings it back to life.
You can almost have Creed without the Rocky movies, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, it brings that kind of those memories back to life.
Yeah.
Rocky, right? So that's cool. So 8 years old is when you first walked into a boxing gym. So what's going through your head, or are you instantaneously good, or or how's that work? Like, what do you do when you're an 8-year-old boxer?
Well, the first time I ever walked into a boxing gym, I was 8, but I only went there for, I'd say a month or 2. Okay. I can't really remember because instantly I was hooked. But then one day my mom took me and no one was there, and it was just closed. And then the next day, and then the next day, and then just never opened up again, which was really weird. But I still went there for a while, so that I got a good taste of it, and it was just next level for me. I did other sports too, and I've always been to a lot of people's surprise, I never did basketball.
I was about to ask, you probably get that all the time.
Yeah, all the time. Right? And I've tried other sports, but I never I can count on one hand the number of times I played basketball my whole life, and it wasn't even real games. It was just like pickup
and stuff.
Yeah, or just playing horse.
Okay.
But I was always really fond of just the contact stuff. So football, wrestled in high school, even rugby. But But 8 years old, yeah, the first time I entered the boxing gym, I remember the first time I sparred, and I was doing really good.
When was the first time you sparred? How old were you there? Do you
8.
remember?
It was,
Oh,
yeah.
you did.
With
Okay.
another, was it with another 8-year-old?
Yeah.
Something same
So-
weight class and all that.
So this is a good friend of mine who also he was the first kid I ever sparred. It was my first time meeting him. But then later on, I met him again in high school because we went to the same high school, and then we became real good friends in the same friend group. He later passed away at a young age, so I want to say, but I've always kind of had a special place for him in my heart just because how we grew up together, but also he was the first one I ever shared blood with in the ring. But I remember I tore him up. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I tore him up, dude.
No other way.
You were just so much bigger, just more naturally.
Yeah, that's
talented
it.
at
I
too.
wasn't, because he had already been going, because he actually came from a boxing family. So he had been doing it longer than I have. But even though we were both 8, you might mistake that for us being, okay, you know, around the same size. No. I mean, when I was 8, I was playing football with 12 and 13-year-olds because the league I played for went by size and weight, height and weight, not
wow,
age.
okay. Yeah, yeah,
so I was 8, but I was built like a teenager.
Right, yeah.
So that was really it. But I remember I was just cracking him. His nose started bleeding. And then afterwards, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it anymore because I felt so bad.
Right, because he's your friend.
Yeah. He was my friend. And then he starts crying and his nose is bleeding and all that. And then I was like, oh, no. I don't like doing
You didn't think
that.
about that part of the sport, huh?
Yeah.
So do you feel, is like safe to say you felt like you're always like pretty like leaning towards naturally talented at boxing? Like it just came like, not second nature, but you get what I'm saying? Like it was kind of just easier to do versus the other sports.
Maybe a little bit. I say it might be a little easier, but I think that's more so not that it was because physically it's the hardest sport I've ever done. Harder than football, harder than wrestling, harder than anything. But I just enjoyed it more. So I think it might have felt easier, but
It wasn't actually.
like physically, no.
Yeah.
I remember I went after my first day going. Next day I'm at school, and I'm just hurting like I've never hurt before. And I thought something was wrong. I was like, I couldn't barely lift my arms. I could barely move my legs. And I go to the nurse, and I'm like, I don't know why, but my body just hurts so bad. And she's asking, well, what have you done? I was like, oh, I just started boxing. And she's like, oh, you're just sore. And I was like, sore? I had no idea what it was. But, yeah, so that was my first taste of actually putting in some real work.
That's cool. And so, like, when did you fully embrace boxing, like as like your go-to sport? Like, it sounds like you got a glimpse of it when you were 8. You started sparring where you were 8. Did you literally from then on just boom, you were boxing all the time, or when did you like really like dive in a little bit deeper?
No, because as I was saying, I started going there when I was 8, and that was my first introduction. But
Yeah.
I was only going there for a little bit, and then for whatever reason, the gym just closed down and never opened
yeah,
up again.
that's right,
And at the time, that was the only gym in
Like
in the Des Moines area, or at least that I knew of. And so after that, it just kind of got put on the shelf for me. And then that was when I went back to doing football, pee-wee baseball, all that. And then fast forward 3-4 years, when I was 11, 12 years old, my mom saw in the newspaper this new boxing gym that was open up through the Des Moines Police Department and the PAL, the Police Athletic League. They were open up over on the east side of Des Moines as well. And so as soon as she told me about that, I was like, all right, let's go. And then I went there, and then that's where I stuck with the rest of my amateur career. Even to this day, when I'm back home, I still go and I train there.
And what's it called again?
It's the Des Moines PAL Boxing Club.
Oh, okay.
It's the Police Athletic League. So yeah, it's put on. It's great. It's put on by the police department, and it's completely free. You know, no sign up fee, no nothing, because it's a part of the whole idea behind it was to kind of get kids off the streets
Right.
into something productive, like they can help them, and so yeah, so that was the whole premise behind it. And yeah, that's where I started at, and that's where I was at my whole amateur career.
So can you take us a little bit on that journey of like, you started amateurly boxing at 11, and then you started moving up the ranks, going into like slowly transitioning into like where you're fighting now. Kind of take us on that whole adventure there.
Well, so I was 11 when I started going there. I didn't have my first amateur fight till I was 15. And it wasn't for a lack of trying, because it took a couple years before me to actually get a fight, because I started training there, and yeah, just like the first time I walked in the gym, I instantly fell in love with it. This one even more, because it was more structured, more
organized.
Yeah, more kind of focused and just better, better equipment, better everything. But and yeah, so I started going there just consistently, started developing skill set more so than the first time I went. And finally it gets around time where I'm like, all right, I want to start fighting. And my coach was like, all right. And so he's trying to find some fights. Next, months, years go by, because I'm trying to get a fight. But at this time, I'm 12 years old. By 12, I was like 6 foot, close to 200 pounds, I think.
Damn.
So
At 12?
yeah. So they would.
So you were a man at 12.
Yeah. So they would, and they'd have local boxing shows or something. And I haven't fought before. I'm still. So for your first fight, you're only going to go against someone else who also has no fights, or maybe 1 or 2.
Right. Yeah.
And so, you have to match, age, weight, all that. They're going to put a 12-year-old with like an 18-year-old or anything. And that was the issue. They would find, my coach would tell these other coaches, oh, yeah, I got this kid, he's got no fights. And all right, but they're like, okay, cool, I got this other kid, he's got no fights either, Then they find out I'm, 6 foot, 200 pounds, and they're like, no, that's not happening. So
the pool of fighters, they're at that age, in that weight class, there just wasn't a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty tough, especially for somewhere like Des Moines, because the boxing scene here is pretty small. So, and it's tough getting started. Once you get some fights going, it's easier. But when you're first starting off, you just need something. Everything kind of has to be on the same page. You need someone that's close to your age, close to your experience, close to your weight.
Gotcha. Because then throughout the years, you're willing to challenge yourself a little bit more, right? Like yourself and probably other fighters.
Yeah. And then finally, when I was 15, that was when I was finally able to get my first actual amateur fight.
So then how often were you around like 11, 12, 13, 14? Like how often were you in the gym, like practicing and developing your skill sets?
Oh, every day.
Every day?
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't even, to be honest, it didn't really feel like I was training for a fight. It was just something we did,
You were having fun while you were doing it.
Yeah. It was just like the fun thing to do. All my friends were going there. And so after school, I was like, all right, let's go to the boxing gym. We'd go there, we'd spar, we'd hang out. So that was kind of the difference for me as far as boxing and the other things. When I did baseball, when I did football, all that, it felt like practice. I felt like I was just counting down the hours from when practice started to when it ended. Boxing, I was, I never wanted to leave. And I was still working, but like I said, it was fun for me. Growing up as a punishment, when I did something bad, Mom was like, no boxing. And I was like, and I'd throw a fit. No, come on.
That's when it really hurt. You're like, oh,
yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, she could ground me, I could not go hang out with my friends. That's cool. But when I was really in trouble, she was like, no boxing.
Dang, that's cool. That's kind of cool to hear, like, how passionate or how invested you were, in something that young. Because I can't think of anything in my world where I'm like, where I was that. Maybe soccer eventually. Maybe at some point soccer, but it's cool to hear how invested you were. So then 15 is when you officially got your first fight. Like, what do you remember? Like, how did you get it? Like, did they finally find someone with 0 fights that was 6 foot, 200 pounds at around 15 years old, or how was that?
No, so it was actually for the Iowa Silver Gloves, which is an amateur tournament they have, and it was in Cedar Rapids. And although we matched in weight and experience, he was far from 6 foot. So
was he taller, shorter?
No, shorter, much shorter. Yeah, actually, is a funny story after that happened, because I fought him. I think I stopped him in a minute, 90 seconds, something like that.
Quick fight.
Yeah. So I was so eager, so nervous. I just went out there and I started punching nonstop.
Technique went out the window. You just
I just wanted to get it done, get it out the way, because I was like, oh my god, what
and
am I
you've
gonna
been
do?
waiting how many years too for a fight as well at that time? So.
Yeah, like at the time I was already 2-3 years into boxing, so this was a long time coming. But afterwards, like next year, my coach runs into this kid's coach too at another boxing event, and he comes up to my coach and he starts chuckling, telling him how, like, oh, that kid he fought, he scared the weight off him, because now he's lost so much weight. He's like, so apparently he just, after fighting me, realized he didn't want to fight at heavyweight no more, and dropped a whole bunch of weight.
Oh.
So
You literally scared the weight off it.
yeah. So.
And was it like frustrating at first, those few years that you didn't have a fight? Like, were you getting constantly frustrated over and over again that you couldn't get something set up?
Yeah, it was, especially because there'd be, my coach would tell me about a show or event they'd be having. He's like, all right, we'll try to get you at this one. I'm like, all right, cool. And then always just like fell through, or they didn't want it, or they try matching me up with some guy who's like, in his 20s. This guy a bunch of fights already. I was like, But yeah, finally getting that first one out the way was just a sigh of relief.
Yeah. So what happened after that? What happened after the first fight? Did the second and third fight become easier to find, or what happens in the boxing world after that?
You would think that, but no, it's basically the same issue as before. Only this time I actually know what it's like to fight. But after that, I was maybe getting 1 or 2 fights a year, at least here.
And in the amateur ranks, is it more like your coach? It sounds like, right? Your coach is making these connections. The coach is setting up these fights, or versus in the pro world, it's all through promotion, right?
Yeah. So it's it's a night and day difference compared to amateur to pro, because especially when you're just doing like just regular amateur fights at these local shows and things, you'll have something set up and then they just won't show up, because you got to go in there, you got to weigh in, and then a guy you're supposed to fight just doesn't show up for whatever reason, because a lot of times these guys are driving from Kansas City, Nebraska, Minnesota, wherever. And it's hard enough to find fights as it is, but then to actually make sure like it falls through, it was rare, It was only because after that first one, it was only going around to like major tournaments I was able to get some fights. But even then, you can't go to those until you reach that level of experience, because in amateurs, starting off, you start off as a novice, which is anything below 10 fights. So, and that's so you don't have 3 fights and they match you with someone who has 50 or 100 fights. Yeah. So you're only going to be fighting guys within your
experience level.
Yeah. So, and then once you get to 10 fights, you enter the open division. And that's where that's when it becomes easier, because then you can kind of go with anyone. So
at that point, it's like you're choosing, like, okay, I want to take this fight. This guy has 20 fights, I have 50, I'll take it, or yes or no to it.
Yeah. So that was kind of, once I was able to get those first handful of fights, then it started becoming a little easier, just because we had a lot more options rather than just someone else who has 8 or less fights. But even then, I was fighting in the open division before I was even in the open division. Only when I had like 6 fights, I was fighting with these guys with 100 fights.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
wow. And that was because it just opened it up to more potential fights, right? Like
Yeah.
more fighters and whatnot. Okay.
Yeah, well, because I had my first fight at 15, and then after that I had like one or two, and then at 16 you can do the Iowa Golden Gloves,
Okay.
and that was when I signed up for that, and I did so I signed up for the Iowa Golden Gloves at 16, and I won them, but you can only fight in the novice division of Golden Gloves once, and if you win it, you have to move up to the open division.
Oh,
So
okay.
even though I was still a novice, I had already won the Iowa Golden Gloves in the novice division. So my next year, I had to do the open,
Okay.
even though I still had only 6 or 7 fights.
Okay. So then in that world, like you win the Golden Gloves, which is super cool to hear, right? Like you hear someone that win Golden Gloves, you're already like, okay, this is level up type of like.
It's a legitimate fighter.
Yeah. So then what starts happening in your world after that? Like as you get out into the open, like.
Yeah, so how Golden Gloves works is you start on a regional level. So I did the Iowa Golden Gloves, and like I said, I did that first when I was 16. I remember both the guys I fought that time. One was 25, the other one was 29.
Wow.
And one was a former Iowa State wrestler, and he was just huge. I was taller, obviously, but this guy was just ripped. And once I heard he was gonna be the guy I was fighting, I'd never been so scared in my life.
Yeah.
I'd never been so scared. This guy's 10 years older than me, probably about 220 pounds of just pure muscle. Meanwhile, I'm just like this tall, I'm big, but I was just a skinny kid. So, and I remember before that, we're warming up, I'm in the pads with my coach, and like I can barely feel my legs or my arms. It's like wet noodles. And then all my family was there. We sold like $600 worth of tickets. They all came to show it out.
That's cool.
And then it was like halfway through the first round, I realized this dude is not near as scary as he looks. And that was when it kind of clicked. And then I was whipped up on him, and then next day I whipped up on the next guy. And so that was my first taste at like real competition.
Yeah. Man, so you're 16, beating a 26-year-old, like fully ripped, stacked.
Yeah.
Dude, is that when like your brain all of a sudden clicks? Like your confidence must have skyrocketed after that.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
I think that was one of the biggest things that kind of made me fall in love with boxing so much, is because it gave me that confidence. Because I was never a real confident kid growing up. A lot of people would think that I was, just because I was like big. I think just because you're big, you're bigger than everyone else, you're gonna walk around like you're the man. But a lot of times I was not a confident kid. I was very scared about a lot of things. But boxing was one of those things where it gave me confidence, where I felt like I was the man.
So it gave you the opportunity to learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah.
Sounds like that's super cool. So like that's a cool moment. So what would you say, because again, we have a lot of followers out there, young and old and all different ages. Like a lot of them are probably having that same mental self-talk where they maybe not have the confidence. Like what would you recommend to some of them, whether they're in sports or boxers or whatnot, that are giving themselves that self-talk that maybe, hey, I'm not the shit or whatever, or maybe I want to quit. Like, what would be like a piece of advice you want to give to some of the young youth?
Honestly, man, just as corny or cliche as it might sound, like just do it, because like you said, after that first time winning Golden Gloves, like it gave me a lot of confidence, but that fear never went away. Like every time to this day, before every fight, I'm terrified, and a lot of people like wait until they're ready. Even a lot of younger kids in my gym now, they want to have their amateur fights, or even kids I trained with back when I was younger. I was like, because I trained with some good kids. I was not the best in my gym. I just liked fighting. There was other kids that were way better than me, but they weren't fighting because they were like, oh, I'm not ready. I want to lose some more weight, or I want to do this or do that. And there never comes a time when you're like, there's never that moment where you're like, okay, I'm ready now. That was why I always hated when, before a fight, even to this day, my, friends, family members, they'll ask me like, are you ready? I'm like, no, like you're never ready, like if I'm fighting now, but if I were to fight a week later, a month later, does that mean I'd be more ready? I like to kind of think that I'm never ready, but you just got to do it anyway. So
you just take action.
Like I say, like I said, that's such a, I don't know, that's just kind of like a silly concept to me. Like, oh, you're ready, you're ready now. Like, what do you mean, when are you ever ready for anything?
Yeah.
And the second you think you're ready, you get humbled real quick and realize like, oh, I wasn't as ready as I thought.
Yeah. Or you surprise yourself and like, I just kicked that guy's ass.
Well, and that's the funny thing about it, because there were times where I was like, oh, yeah, man, I'm ready. I'm good to go. And then I'd get worked. And then there are other times where it's like, oh, you want to fight, this weekend? And it's on short notice or something. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready, but, screw it. Yeah, I'm down. And then I just go in there and I just put a whooping on them.
Heck yeah.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say I wanted to branch off a little bit just because I keep hearing you, repeat family. And I feel like, at least looking from the outside in, because I love watching boxing. That's one of the things I connect with my dad very well. I've always watched boxing growing up. So it's something cool that I like to do with him. But from the outside looking in, being a boxer, being in the boxing world can be very, very lonely. So where I go with that is it sounds like you have, that full support from your family. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, you hit it right on the head as far as it being lonely. It's very lonely. It's not it's like not glamorous at all. It's I know people like see things, especially, they hear you box, you're a professional boxer, and then right away, they kind of put you in the Floyd Mayweather category, and it's like, no, it's not. Even someone like him, I had to spend years before he got to that level. And it's always cool, after a win, you got everyone hyping you up, telling you you're the man, this and that. But when you're putting in that work, months before, it's you, you're not getting any of that support from anyone except those that are close to you, your family, your friends, your loved ones. And that's something I try to remind myself. I try to stay grounded, because it's real easy to believe your own hype that people are telling you, like, oh yeah, man, you're this and you're that. But the second you start doing that is when I think that's when it all starts to fall apart for you. And then once that happens, say you lose or whatever, all those people that were supporting you, by your side, telling you all that stuff, they're gone. And the only ones that are left are, your family and the ones that were there from the beginning.
And like, that's one thing that we love to talk about on the podcast here is like going into the behind the scenes and really diving deep into the sacrifices and, everything that actually took, everything that no one is seeing. So like, How is that, like, going through a training camp? Like, what is it that you're implementing into that training camp? Is there things that you like to do? Is there things that you like to, kind of get a routine going, whether it's eating the same diet, doing the same sort of workouts?
Yeah, it's just it's boring, there's not really much to put to it. It's just the same thing over and over again. Same workouts, same. One thing I need to work out is my diet, because I'm heavyweight, so I got to worry about cutting weight. So I train hard, but also I eat good, so.
What's your go-to food?
Oh,
Favorite food?
I usually go through like a cycle of pizza, burgers, and tacos.
Hey,
It's like,
yeah.
okay.
I'm
Hey,
in.
I do that,
just
and I'm not
repeat
even
that
a
cycle
boxer,
over and
man.
over again.
I
already do
too,
that.
but I don't look like you.
Sometimes I get a little crazy and get a taco pizza. You know, just
Oh,
mix it
yeah,
up.
yeah. There you go. Okay.
Yeah, I'm hungry. So that's cool. So then, like, how do you transition from amateur in your story to pro? Like you know, you're kind of almost at that cusp in your story. So I'm curious to know, like, how does that happen? It sounds like you're winning a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Are you losing too, or like, and then how do you make that jump?
Well, it was. There's a big difference, but a lot of times I kind of just miss amateur days because it was all about boxing. You know, when you get into pros, it's more of just a business. But amateur days, it was just, you know, you sign up, you go, you win, you fight, you know, and that's it. And then you go to these tournaments and I was I stayed amateur for a while. I didn't turn pro until a year and a half ago when I was 24, but that was just because I was trying to get the more amateur fights you have, the better your chance of success in the pros. And I only had 32 amateur fights total, and that's not a lot. You know, you got
There's people in like the hundreds, right?
Yeah. You got guys who are going into the pros, turning pro at 18, 19 years old, who already have hundreds of amateur fights. And so yeah, and half of my amateur fights I got within my last year of being amateur, because my last year,
Oh wow,
yeah, through my whole amateur career, I was up until I was 21, I think I only had maybe 16, 17, 18 tops fights. But then my last year, was when I really was able to get that extra jump, and I went to a lot more tournaments and was able to get a lot more fights in, because that's where I was really got the most of them. Because after, like, if I take it back to Golden Gloves, after that first year I won, next year I got to do the open division, and so I went in the Iowa Golden Gloves, and the real Golden Gloves title that matters is nationals. So Iowa Golden Gloves, that's just the regional. And when you win that, that's how you qualify for the national Golden Gloves. And the national Golden Gloves is probably the top amateur tournament in the country, because they call it the tournament champions, because all the guys you fight there are all the Golden Gloves champions of their
own state or region.
So you got guys from, you know, Texas, New York, California, all over, who had had to fight like 8 or 10 fights to win their Golden Gloves. You know, me, I'm in Iowa, which is a very, very small region, and I only had to fight twice to win it. And
dang.
so that was and that's real intimidating, especially I go, first time I go there, I'm only 8 fights in, and then you're looking around, you're seeing all these guys, like just hundreds of fighters, and all of them from all over. You know, these are guys who have hundreds of fights. You know, they've fought a bunch of times to win their region, and now you got to fight them, and it's a week-long tournament. You got to win it. You got to fight 4 or 5 times back to back each day.
Wow.
Each day?
Yeah.
Holy
Dang.
smokes. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then and that was usually where I got most of my fights, because I was only able to get maybe 1 or 2 show bouts a year, and those are just regular, just boxing matches that they have just at shows around. But then once around Golden Gloves time came, I would fight, and there was even a couple times where I won the Iowa unopposed, just because there was no one to fight. So I win the Iowa Golden Gloves, without even fighting.
Yeah.
And then I go to the national Golden Gloves and fight guys who have had to fight, several guys to win theirs.
And how did those tournaments go?
So it's
like, how'd you do?
How'd I do? Yeah. So I went to the national Golden Gloves 4 times, and I made it to the quarterfinals every time, and each fight I lost I told you I had 32 fights. My record is 28-4, and so in all 4 of my losses, they're split decisions. So I mean, split decision means it's a close fight. You could have gone either way.
Yeah.
And then so I would make it to either the quarterfinals or semifinals, and finally my 4th year. The funny thing is, I was actually real close to not doing it. I was just kind of tired because it's like I've already tried a couple times, didn't work out. I don't know if I'm gonna do it this year. And then finally, I was like, I already signed up for it. Screw it, I'll just give it one last try. And then I went, and this was in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and then that's the one I won. And that was kind of the turning point for me as far as taking that next step and it kind of catapulted me into the rest of my amateur success to even now being pro, because I won that one, and I was the first ever heavyweight from Iowa to win it, and I was the first guy in 15 years from Iowa to win National Golden Gloves.
Wow.
And that's because you got guys from like Texas or California, they have 2 or 3 national champions every year.
Because the state is bigger and all.
Yeah, it's just bigger, and they just have better fighters.
Right.
Just because boxing is a much bigger scene there than it is here. When I won it, the last guy to win it was from 2004.
Wow.
So that was I mean, that was a big deal. And after that was when I really got kind of noticed, and then I went on to win 2 more national titles that year. And that was when some scouts from pro management companies spotted me, and that was when they reached out to me, and then I decided to sign with them, and they got me set up with everything I got going now in the pros.
And is this true of how it works? Like when you're in the pros, like you're training, and then you get paid at the end of the fight, right? And then with that fight, that's when you're going out and making your splits again. You're paying your camp, you're paying all those stuff, right?
Yeah.
So then how, like, what was going through your mind when that all was happening? Like when they reached out to you, like, did you consult with your family or anyone else on like, should I do this? Should I not? Or did you immediately like, this is it? Like, this is what I've been looking forward to,
Yeah, it was kind of a little surreal moment, because I'm like, they're reaching out to me now, they noticed me, which was kind of cool, because I didn't really know how it worked. I was like I want to go pro, but how does it even happen? but yeah, so as far as my family, they support everything I do. They're like, if I just today told them, I'm done boxing, I don't want to do no more, and be like, okay, that's cool, and they'd support me in whatever next thing I want to do. But so they're just happy for me, and yeah, like I said, to support every step of my journey, and they back every decision I make. Mainly the person I talk to most though about that jump from amateur to pros is my coach, just because he was the one that that helped get me to that point. And I'm very lucky with the coach I have for my amateurs, because he told me at one point, he's like, if you want to keep pursuing this and take this to the next level where you want to take it, where I know you can take it, you're gonna have to leave me, because I've taken you about as far as I can. You need someone better. You can't. I've shown you about everything I can, and if you really want to go somewhere, you're gonna have to reach out and get that next step in coaching.
That's cool. Like, are you allowed to say like who that coach was?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. His name's John Saunders. He was a police officer for the Des Moines Police Department for, I don't know, like 30 years, I think. I don't know. This is last year. He's going to retire.
Oh,
I mean, he was a detective, but for the last like 15 years, he's just been a coach. And that's been his job now.
Yeah.
So he's I'm actually glad you asked about him, because he was actually slipping, but in my success, I owe a lot to him, as far as, because not even outside of boxing and the everything taught me. He just taught me more about what it means to be a man. You know, just be a good person. He told us his goal was never to make boxers. He didn't care about making world champions, making, you know, getting money off people's name or anything like that. He could care less. He just wants us to be happy and to be able to take care and support our family. And I remember him showing up to our schools, you know, checking up on how we're doing in school, which I always was terrified of, because I never did well. You know, he'd make sure we were catching up with grades. If we were falling back on grades, then no boxing. You know, if we got in trouble in school, no boxing. So there were a couple of times where I wasn't able to go. You know, I'm suspended from school, I'm suspended from boxing. So he made sure to let us know that being able to go there and train with him was a privilege, and just like that, he can take it away.
Damn. I could tell how much he means to you just by looking in your eyes. Like,
oh yeah, I mean, and like I said, means a lot because I'm lucky. You know, I didn't. My dad took off when I was real young, so all I had was my mom and my siblings. So I never had that father figure, and he really kind of took that role. You know, he's the main reason why I didn't. You know, especially all my friends growing up, they were some troublemakers. So, but I always knew not to follow too close. You know, not to follow too close behind them, because anytime I did, he was right there. You know, and then I'd get busted, or he'd find out or catch wind of it, and then it'd be my ass. So yeah, he's a very, very important person in my life, and I basically owe everything to him, even though he's okay taking no credit for it. You know,
yeah.
He doesn't want, like I say, he doesn't want any fame. He doesn't want me to pay him back in any way. He wins when I win.
It's a good person to have behind your back, right in your corner.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think enough people have that, and that's why they, you know, fall into the habits they do.
So how does that process look of having to leave that piece behind of your coach and having to, you know, scout for a new one?
It wasn't too hard. You know, he's still, you know, I still see him. You know, I just saw him yesterday. You know, because even when I'm back home, you know, I still train. I still try to maintain, you know, being in shape and all that. So I still go to the gym I was at before. But as far as the process of finding a new trainer, it's that was the easy part, you know, especially with the trainer, the professional trainer I got now. It's the trainer I've wanted to have ever since I was 15 years old. So I'm real lucky with that, because it's like I remember watching, and my trainer now is Robert Garcia Boxing Academy. You know, he's trained 14 different world champions. You know, he was a world champion himself. And I remember watching the fight between Marcos Maidana and Floyd Mayweather, and that was back in, I don't know, like 2014, I want to say. And after that fight, that was when I knew I was like, Like I want that to be who I train under when I turn pro. And then fast forward, I get a professional manager, and he's like, all right, I want to set you up with a new trainer. I want to send you over to Robert Garcia. And right away, my eyes light up, and I was like, Robert Garcia? I mean, this is the guy I've been saying I want to train with for years. And now, just like that, you know, I got the connection and got to go out there and train with him.
What were some of your favorite fighters that he was training?
Marcos Maidana, for one. I loved just I just like his coaching style and the way he trains his fighters.
Okay.
You know, his younger brother Mikey Garcia, 4 division world champion. Now one of my training partners, Jesse Bam Rodriguez, who is the youngest world champion in boxing, won his world title at 22. Just an absolute stud. So yeah, a lot of great fighters, but more so I just like his training style.
Yeah.
You know, and he's one of those coaches you can tell cares for his fighters. You know, a lot of coaches, a lot of them don't care that much. You know, it's just kind of like they're trying to get what they can out of whatever fighters they can, and they'll throw them in there with whoever as long as they're getting paid. That's all that matters to them.
And what's like the atmosphere in your training camp now, like being surrounded by people like you just mentioned, one of the youngest world champions?
Oh, that's great. I love it because that was one of the issues I ran into when right when I started getting towards the end of my amateur career. Is I'm training at the gym I have here, but I'm like the only fighter from there. All the other kids that go there, they're just kind of going there and it's just something for them to do. It's more just kind of like an after school program, and so pretty.
Now you got people who are taking it more serious now.
Yeah, it was pretty obvious that I was like the best one in the gym, and so yeah, and when you're the best one, that can be a negative because it's hard to
improve. No one's challenging.
Yeah, it's hard to evolve. And now that I'm out there with a real, genuine professional boxing gym, you know, I'm not even close to being the best one in that gym, which I love because I look around and I see some of these guys training and some of these guys sparring, and I'm like, damn, you know, that's where I need to be. You know, I need to get on their level. And you just naturally just kind of get better because you're surrounded by so many guys who are all just such high level fighters, and it's you just, like I was saying, naturally you just improve. You know, you see what this guy's doing, look over at what this guy's doing, and we're all just trying to. I'd say the best success, or the reason that gym is so successful, is just the atmosphere. Because everyone's cool with each other, everyone's on good terms, everyone works hard, and everyone just feeds off that energy. And it's a team, really. Even though boxing is an individual sport where you're the one in that ring fighting, you know, you go in there with a team backing you. So yeah, so I can already tell, you know, just the little time I've been there, I've improved so much from when I was back here just training.
Do you remember one of like your hardest fights or your hardest moments? And like, speaking of like hardness, like your last fight, that was a pretty like close fight, right?
Yeah.
But do you have a moment that you recall that, like, either whether you got knocked down or something like that, or just a time that was like super tough and what you did to be able to get through that?
I mean, yeah, if you're talking about hardest moments, the first thing that comes to my head is just my last fight, you know, not only because it's the most recent one, but because it was the hardest one. You know, before that, I'm now 7-0, 6 KOs. Before this last fight, all my fights didn't make it past the second round. And now this fight,
this one went the whole round, fight, right?
Yeah, we went all 6 rounds. And I started off good, you know, doing what I was supposed to do, and then something happened in the third round where I just got caught with a shot I did not see coming, and I went down. And then
Was that the first time you've been dropped?
No.
Okay.
No, I was actually I've been dropped twice in my professional career. My 2 fights before this last one, I got dropped in the first round. That one was more of just like a flash knockdown, and it wasn't really like a. I got caught with a good shot, and then I was just for a split second, I kind of lost my balance, but then after that second goes by, I was good. I just couldn't get my balance back, and then this guy is kind of like hopped on me and was able to kind of push me down. So I mean, it was a genuine knockdown. I got hurt, but I wasn't as hurt. The second I got back up, I was good, and then I went and I knocked him out in the second round. This one though. This one was a different knockdown because I got hit and I didn't see it coming. And you ask any boxer, they'll all say the same thing. You know, the punch you don't see is the one that hurts you. It doesn't even matter if they throw it hard or not. If you don't see it coming, you're going to get hurt. And it hit me out of nowhere. And then I go down, and thankfully it was right at the end of the round. So I had that minute in between that knockdown in the next round to kind of recover.
And what does that conversation look like with your trainer, with your coach? Like, you just got knocked down. Yeah,
it's not. I mean, it's not a fun conversation, but at the same time, it's like it's. I don't know. It's kind of a weird. It's kind of hard to explain because you get knocked down and instantly I'm kind of like, there's a little part of me that's like, oh no, like. I got knocked down, it's over, I lost, or you're already kind of ready to, but then you get up and then you realize like, it's not over, I still got, 2, 3, 4, however many rounds left, I can get this back. So I'm back in the corner and then they're just telling me what I need to do, they're telling me, you don't trade with them, use your distance, use your range. That round was 8-2, so it's an even fight now because you win the first 2 rounds, but you get knocked down that third round. Now it's 2 rounds to 2. So these next rounds need to be perfect. There's no room for error. Otherwise, you lose the fight. So it's a pretty scary, uneasy feeling because you have to make sure you win these rounds and you want to win them convincingly, but also you don't want to take any unnecessary risk, and you don't want to put yourself out there more than you need to be because that's when you take more of a chance of getting caught again. And so you have to find that fine line to where you're working and you're winning without taking any unnecessary risk.
So then, like, what happened afterwards? Walk us through.
Walk
us through it. Just for some
we're in the fight with you.
Yeah, we're in the fight with you. Like, what's going on? How are you? Like, you just talked to us about your kind of process. You want to go after it and make the rounds perfect. Yet you don't want to go too hard where you get caught with another one of those shots that you don't see coming. Yeah. So like, what's happening?
So this one was after that knockdown, I just couldn't wait for that fight to be over because, and you try to get it back. So I'm one like, okay, knock me down. Like I'm gonna knock him down now. The only thing after though is after this knockdown, I never really fully recovered. The thing is, when you get knocked down like that, your whole body kind of shuts off, and after that, my legs were never really fully under me, and so I was kind of on shaky legs the rest of the fight, and which also means I wasn't able to kind of
get power behind.
Yeah, I wasn't really able to kind of put that power down on him like I normally would want to, just because I just didn't have that stable foundation as I did in the beginning of the fight, and so it was probably about towards the end of that next round, I kind of realized I was like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to knock this guy out, and especially this was a tough dude because I was in with some hard shots, but he was just taking them. I did know though that I was in better shape. So I was like, take a little power off the punches, but just try to throw more and just try to outwork him, you know? So I was outworking him more, but I could tell he was just waiting to find that, conserving his energy to kind of find that,
like a second window almost?
Yeah, and
try
to
power
find
shot.
That right moment where he just
right
catches me, you know, trying to get lightning to strike twice and catch me with the same thing he caught me with that third round. And so yeah, and so I could tell he was doing that, so I'm just trying to keep him at distance, let my punches go, and move. I don't want to stay in one spot because you can tell when the guy's, you know, he's kind of loading up or he's kind of sitting down ready to unleash it. And there were a couple times where he caught me with some big shots after that knockdown. But thankfully I was afterwards I was moving my head more, so I made a lot of them miss. There were a couple that slipped through that got me, but in that moment I knew, I'm like, either you're gonna have to knock me out cold because I'm not going down again. Like I couldn't, you know. So even after getting caught with those big shots, unless you're putting me out cold, I'm not going down. And so I just tried to do what I could, you know, the rest of the fight, and I mean, thankfully, worked out in my favor, and I won.
Heck.
So, but definitely a little too close for comfort. This next one, I'll try to make a little easier.
Yeah. So, and maybe, you know, with your permission and with your team's permission, we can post a clip of the previous fight so some of our followers can check it out. And so, what are you most excited about right now, and what are you like that's happening in your life right now, and then what are you excited about what's coming?
Just the opportunity to keep fighting. You know, I kind of it's kind of easy to get caught up in all the BS, especially afterwards. You know, you kind of look at some comments people put, you know, and a fighter, man, you're all you do, you know, for every like compliment you get like 9 or 10 people just dogging you, just trying to just say whatever even after the fights, you know. And I'm not even talking about this last one. I'm talking about all my fights. You know, fights where I was knocking guys out in the first round. You know, go to the comments. I go to the comment section and I'm hoping to see what people are putting, and it's all just hate, man. All just people just trying to. And then at first I kind of guessed you, but then after so long, you kind of was like, you know, this is like whatever. And so I just kind of like to remind myself that I'm doing what I want to be doing. Like, this is my dream job. This is what I wanted to do. I'm kind of trying to put myself in that mindset of my inner child, of I'm today, right now, doing the things that I was fantasizing about as a kid, you know? And so you can't let some loser on the internet who's got some, you know, something bad to say about you bring you down, you know?
Yeah, he's on the couch eating Lay's chips.
Yeah, you know.
They don't even know you, yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, and I'm doing what I want to do, you know. This is my like I said, this is my dream job. You know, this is the job I've wanted, you know, for as long as I can remember, you know. And how many people get to wake up every morning and genuinely love what they do, you know, and get paid for it. So even though, and I'm not trying to make it seem like, you know, I wake up every day like, oh, you know, I can't wait to go train today. I'm so excited. No, those days are few and far between. Most days it's the last thing I want to do is go and run or go and train. But in those moments, especially at the end of that fight, no matter if it's the easiest fight you've ever had or a real close one, you just cherish those, you know. And even the ones that you lost, you know, even though I'm still undefeated in my pros, I've I've lost in my amateurs, and I've definitely lost a lot of times in the gym, even though you don't count those. You know, there have been plenty of times where I get whooped, you know. So it's just, and even though you can find joy in, because you know you can get better. You know, I remember there have been times where I was doing like real good in the gym, like real good in sparring, and I didn't really like it because I'm like something's off. I'm doing too good. You know, something's bad about to happen. Something bad is about to happen. So, and then a time would come where I get worked over pretty good by, you know, a more experienced guy or a better guy, and I'm like, all right, sweet. Now I know what I can work on.
Yeah, it's all a mental game.
Yeah. It's all mental.
Yeah. So now, do you already have another fight locked in, or are you out there still searching?
No, so I think right now it's summertime. August, I think, is when my manager said, is my next time I'm going to be in there. So I don't know a specific date, but right now it's looking like towards the end of summer.
Oh, cool.
So
then what are you doing right now?
Well, right now I'm still, you know, I'm here. I'm back home. I'm just kind of chilling, you know, having a good time with my family and just taking it day to day. You know, I'm still being active. I'm still training, but yeah, usually I like to, a couple months before when my fight date is scheduled, I like to go out to Riverside, California, which is where my professional gym is out there, and then just stay out there the whole time. You know, there's housing for the fighters out there, so out there you just stay. You know, you wake up, you train, go chill at the house, and you just do that for a couple months till it's time to fight, and then after you fight, come back home, hang out here for a little bit till it's next time to go back out.
What like keeps you motivated, like during those days where, like you mentioned, that you don't want to get up or you don't want to go train?
Probably the teammates. You know, that's how. Going back to what I was saying earlier about how just all the guys out there, and it's that's when it's real nice to be out there, because on a day like you're in the gym and you're really not feeling it, you know, you look over and you see these other guys getting after it, and you're like, all right, damn, well now I got to put out. So that's the easiest way for me to kind of, because it's kind of you know, the old saying, misery enjoys company. So it's kind of like out there, we waking up and we're like, none of us really want to train, but it's like, but we all got to train. So, you know, let's just go do it. And so typically on the day where you're not feeling it, there's another guy who's there to kind of pick you up, or maybe on a day you're feeling good, the rest of them aren't. So it's a way we're able to hold each other accountable, you know, and that's why I like being out there, because it's easy for me to train out there than it is back here. Because back here, you know, it's just kind of me. I just kind of have to force myself to do it. Whereas back out there, you got all your homies with you that are doing it with you. So, and when you got people with you, it's easier.
Yeah, energy creates energy.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So, kind of like in our world, it's like Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We know we're all together, and it kind of, for us in the business world, it's like, oh, you set an appointment. I don't want to make calls today. But damn, you set an appointment. I need to set an appointment. We're not knocking people out like you guys. As much energy.
We knock out the phone calls.
Yeah, we knock them out, and then we help them get into houses, right? So I can totally feel that, though. If I was by myself, it's hard. You know, it's hard to do that some of the stuff. So cool. So you got a little bit of time off. What are you going to be doing? What do you like to do during, like, when you're getting ready to get into a training camp, but you're still, you know, kind of in between? Like, what do you like to do?
Not too much. You know, I'm a pretty easygoing, chill guy. I just like kind of hanging out. You know, I go to the movies a lot. I just kind of spend time with family.
Cool.
I I eat a lot. I like getting the places we have here that they don't have out there.
Yeah.
So I'm at Bebop's. I'm at Tasty Tacos all the
Oh,
time.
yeah.
Dude, Bebop's or In-N-Out?
Oh, Bebop's. Bebop's. This is
You might get some hate for that one.
well, this is a huge topic of conversation out there that we've had several times, because there's a lot of guys out there from Texas, specifically San Antonio.
Whataburger, huh?
Yeah, specifically the San Antonio area, and every time I'm out there, it seems like at least once the debate comes up between In-N-Out or Whataburger, and then they like to use me because I'm kind of a neutral.
Right, yeah.
A neutral guy, because of course the Texas guys are all Whataburger, and then the California guys are like In-N-Out. But and then I mean, if you're comparing it to Whataburger, I'll take In-N-Out. But
You gotta take a Bebop's burger, like fly it out with you, and be like, try this, and still it's even better.
I've mentioned it to him before. And I was like, man, you guys are talking about Whataburger and In-N-Out, but I got this place back home that would blow them both out the water.
Dude, I agree. I've had them all. Bebop's all the way.
Yes,
Let's go.
absolutely.
I'm the same,
Absolutely.
actually. I was disappointed, man. I heard so many good things about In-N-Out, and it wasn't that good. And then when we went to Texas last year, we tried Whataburger. It tastes like Burger King to me. It's not that good, but Shake Shack. Have you tried Shake Shack?
No, I've never had Shake Shack.
Shake Shack is pretty good. I like Shake Shack.
We're all hungry.
I just ate. But
No, this is awesome, man. This has been so awesome getting to know you. So before we kind of like wrap it up, like who out there do you want to say, like give shout outs to or say thank you to? And like, so that's the first one. And like, how do people find you or reach out to you or like look at some of your content that you're putting out there?
Yeah, I'm not real big on social media, but anyone who wants to, like, I always post whenever I got a fight coming up or what's going on after the fights. They can follow me at Antonio Mireles 17, ANTONIO MIRELES 17. And I just want to give a huge shout out to my RGBA, Robert Garcia Boxing Academy. You know, those guys, they're the reason for all my success in my professional career, but also more so the Des Moines PAL Boxing Club, my coach John Saunders, and just the police department for being the ones that got me started on this journey. And also because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here. Mainly because I was poor in boxing. You know, going to these tournaments and stuff, hotels, air travel, all that, it costs money. I never had any of the money paid for any of that, and they were always the ones able to do that for me. So, yeah, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't even get a chance to prove myself.
Yeah, that's cool. That's so cool. Well, this has been a lot of fun, like going through this journey with you and kind of learning more about who you are. It's the most fun getting to know you as just a regular human, genuine guy, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Well, this is my first ever podcast, and I was kind of nervous because, you know, since turning pro now, I got to do like interviews and things like that.
all the media, huh?
Yeah, and that's kind of different because you kind of have to say the right things, you know, and you got to try to kind of read a script, you know, because, you know, you want people to like you or whatever, but this is a much different approach, you know. It's like just kind of like a sit down and talk, and it's much easier for me anyway.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah,
We try.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Thanks again, man. And I know for a fact we're going to have you. Hopefully in the near future, it'll allow us to get you back on here if you had fun and get to see kind of where you're at.
See when you're a heavyweight world champion.
Yeah.
Hey, let's go. Let's put it out in the world.
It's going to happen, man. I believe it.
Manifest it.
Yes, sir.
Dude, I love it. All right, Antonio. So what do we got coming up here soon for Failing Adds Up? And what do we got going? Yeah,
for sure. No, I wanted to thank you, man.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, he really is a boxer. But no, for sure. I wanted to thank you for your time, for coming out. And thank you to every single one of you that have been tuning into our episodes. We're having so much fun. We say on every single podcast. We're super excited to continue to push out more and more content. Thank you for all the support that you guys have been showing us. Please keep giving us feedback on things that you like, guest different industries that you want us to interview into. Give us all the feedback you have. Make sure you do like and subscribe if you are new, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in with us on this episode of Failing Adds Up. Till next time.